Hello and welcome back to my craft room. I've got a couple of different projects to show you today that I've made using these sheets of printables I bought from Etsy for the trash dolls, which you can see just behind me there. Some of them are right up the top, you won't be able to see from there, but if you've seen my trash doll video or the live stream, that was really fun. Anyway, so the great thing about when you buy these downloadable printable images is that you can use them over and over again and print them off as many times as you like. So I thought I'm going to do a couple more projects with these and maybe make a couple of things I can put in my Etsy shop. So I thought I'd show you now. To show you one of them, I'll have to stand up a minute. There's a little button necklace with one of the little doll faces as a little focal pendant. Yeah. So I'm going to go to the desk now to show you this a bit better. So here's a better look at my little necklace. Now I know these kind of doll faces, get that to focus. These doll faces creep some people out, but I absolutely love them, and I really like the creepy clown ones as well. I'll show you. So here's a couple of the sheets printed off. I print them off on photo paper. I think it stops because I use an inkjet printer. I think if you just print them on normal kind of cheap copy paper, there's more of a tendency for the ink to smudge all over the place and things when you start applying the glue. So I just think it's better on this, and even then you perhaps need to experiment with certain types of glue to see what works for you. So yeah, I love them. I love that there's you can print them off in different sizes. So this is 30mm and this is 25. Obviously more variety in the smaller sizes sheet, but you know, there's loads and loads of different faces. I really love the creepy clown ones as well. So I'm using these smaller ones for the little pendants, and I'm using the bigger ones for fridge magnets. With this little button necklace, you need obviously some kind of a cording to thread them on. You could just use a crochet cotton or something like that, as long as it's something that's fine enough to go through the button holes really. A selection of buttons. I've tipped a few out from my big old button jar, and then I liked the idea of using a couple of beads to finish off the fastening. So I've done AC for my initials, but if I put them in my Etsy shop, I could offer to do that as an extra service just to personalize for people. Or you could just use plain beads, or just leave the end plain like that. I like the idea, and I just happen to have some of these beads to use. So obviously you also need the little kind of bezel thing, the little pendant tray that it sits in, and I got these fairly reasonably. I think they worked out at 24 pence each, I think. These they're just a silver colour metal. Don't know if it's going to focus very well because it's so shiny, but they're quite nicely finished for that price. They're quite lightweight, and I thought I tried one with just as a plain pendant like this, and I just felt like it was just too lightweight and not enough to it to just leave it like that, which is why I ended up doing the button thing. So yeah, you need those before I let myself go off on another tangent. Also, to finish those off, you need these little epoxy dome stickers, they're called. They're like a kind of flexible kind of type of plastic, self-adhesive, come on this kind of peel off sheet. So you just put them over the image and then glue the whole thing into the little pendant tray. Those work out 11 pence each, those that I got from Amazon. So you need to like bear all this in mind when you know, and make sure you add everything in if you're going to make them for a craft fair or something. It's surprising how much all these things add up to. And I don't include the cost of buttons and things because I've already got them, but you know, if you had to buy them, you would need to take that into account. I also didn't factor in the cost of the images because I feel like I've bought them once, I can print them off over and over. It would be quite hard to price that really. And the other big thing I don't tend to factor in is my time, but then if you love doing this kind of thing, it's fine, isn't it? And I'm just using stuff up and doing something I enjoy doing. Okay, so I did want to make some that are just, you know, without the buttons, so I'm going to use these just as an experiment. Now this is a little pack I bought years ago. I've had it knocking around for ages, this from the works for £2, so there's enough to make 4 in there, so it's only working out 50p each, which is pretty good. I'm not sure I'll be able to get them for that price again though, this kind of quality. So I'm going to do some of them on this thicker thonging and then for the button one I've used a much thinner kind of cord. It just needs to be something that will go through the holes in the buttons. You could actually use crochet cord or something like that, or even ribbon if you've got big enough holes in the buttons. I've got that in a couple of other colours as well. Also glue. I've used this Collal glue, which seemed to work really well. Then I'm going to use this stronger glue for sticking the whole thing into the pendant tray. The other project I'm going to make with some of those larger faces are these little glass fridge magnets. So these are lovely. I bought them by mistake thinking I was buying more of the epoxy stickers, but they are lovely. Really beautiful, nicely finished clear glass cabochons. And I thought, oh, they'll make lovely fridge magnets. So it's a really strong magnet. I've put a big size magnet on the back because I want it to, you know, properly stick on the fridge and hold things up. It's really frustrating when you get those ones where the magnet's too weak. So for the magnet on these, I've used this pack that I got in the pound shop ages ago. I probably would be very lucky to find that again, and I did check and find these exact same looking ones on Amazon, and they were more expensive, so I need again to bear that in mind. But just kind of experimenting today. In terms of equipment, I don't need a lot. I have got circle punches, but with the fridge magnets I found it's easier to just stick them on and trim round afterwards, but we'll come to that. And I think you could definitely do the same thing with the pendants as well. Just if I've got these gadgets, I might as well use them, eh? A little dinky pair of scissors. It's quite handy to have a big one as well for cutting up the images. I use this little emery board for filing around the edges of these to finish them. That's it. So let's get started. I've got a little set of buttons here that I've picked out ready to make another pendant. So I think the first thing I'll do is just show you how you put the actual pendant bit together. For this small one, I'm using these little dinky images. I'm just going to cut this down so my punch can get in there. So with these punches, I always use them upside down so I can see where I'm going. And this is just very fractionally bigger than the image, so I'll just kind of line it up best I can. It's not really going to matter too much anyway, because I can trim it a little bit. There we go. So that's my little image. So you can see I'm a bit off there. So I'm going to end up trimming around that with scissors anyway. There we go. That's good enough. So now I'm going to take one of my epoxy stickers, and this is self-adhesive, so I don't need any glue there. Keep my fingers off it. I found out to my cost that it's very easy to ruin it with fingerprints, or get little bits of fluff in there, and yeah, the trouble is because it's self-adhesive, once it's on, that's it. So I'm going to do it this way this time. You can see I've still got a little bit there. I've still got a little bit outside of the dome sticker, so I'm going to trim that off, but sometimes it's easier to do that with the emery board. But once it's sat into the pendant tray, that won't show. It'll be fine. There we go. But yeah, if I just wanted to neaten that off, I can just do that, just to smooth off those edges. As I say, being sat in the pendant tray, it's really not going to show. So take my little pendant tray or bezel. I'm sure we used to call them bezels. It's a bezel to me. and that would just sit in there like that. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue in, and this time I'm going to use this glue because it's going to metal, and you definitely don't need too much. So I'm probably making the camera wobble now. So I'm just going to put a little drop in the middle there. I'm going to spread it around a little bit and then just drop this in. And you have got a brief amount of wiggle time to adjust it if the angle's a bit wrong. But essentially that's it. You don't want too much glue, because if it starts coming up around the edges, it looks horrible. You can never really quite tidy it up. I think, did this one get like that? There was one that I remember thinking, oh, I'll have to keep that one myself. I'll probably keep this one myself because I've got a little, this is where I probably put my finger on the sticker or something, is it? Can you see just by her chin there's a little flaw there? Maybe that sounds a bit over fussy, but I don't want to, you know, I don't want anybody being disappointed. So I'll probably keep this one for myself. Good excuse, because I want one anyway. That's very me. So this one's all ready to go. That one's got a little bit too much glue around the edges. Can you see what I mean? And you can't really get rid of it very well. That's that one. I'm going to leave that to one side to dry. Just get this other one on the way. So this is just going to go on the thong. The thong. Going for a thong. I'm going to need a little antique brass matching jump ring as well, because obviously if I were to just thread my cord through like that, it's not going to sit flat against the wearer. You need the jump ring to turn this back around. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so this time, shall I go for a clown for this one? I haven't done a clown yet. I might go for her. Okay, so with the glass, I found it was just easier just to put it on here first and let it dry and then cut it round. But I mean, you know, everybody finds their own way with these things. So again, and this is ever so runny, this glue, I've got to remember. Just a little drop in the centre, right? So you can see, whoops, you can see how little I've got there. And then I'm going to drop the glass cabochon on top, making sure there's no bits of fluff or anything. And just move it round a bit, and you can see the glue spreading as you do that. Okay. And it will start to come out of the edges a little bit. So then you know it's spread itself right the way across. And now it starts to feel, it's just starting to feel a little bit sticky now, so I'm going to just leave that, put that to one side to dry while I move on to the next thing. Let's see that, so that tiny drop, and so much of it has come out. Let me show you. I don't know if it will show. Yes, you can see there, see how much has come out around the edges. So I'm going to leave that now, put that to one side safely while I move on to the next stage with this one. Oops. So I've pulled out some buttons. Now I put these two here just to mention that I quite like the idea of using a sort of metal colour button as the fastening, but it really doesn't matter, that's just me. And also that you can use these shank buttons, shank fastening buttons, you know, where you got the little kind of loop thing at the back. You can use them for the fastenings instead if you want. All the ones like this, whatever you've got. I love the texture of that one. Look at that. They're like the little print on it. It's like tiny stars. Isn't it lovely? So I quite like the idea of that as a fastening, because you know it makes almost another focal point of it really. Okay, so I need to think about the order of my buttons. So what I did with this one was two small, the biggest ones, and then middle-sized ones there. So I did decide about the order of these and I've forgotten now. That's the fastening. And that's my fastening. Or shall I try a shank one just to show you? Well, I'm going to do both in the end anyway. Let's do the shank one this time. So for this one, I'm using the finer cord. I suppose I could try using a different colour. I could try it with white for this one. I'm not sure about the white for this. What do you think? It's a shame you're not really here so I could ask you. What do you think about that? I'm a bit worried that the white just looks like string or something. I don't know. Let's do a one. We can see how it looks. Okay, so I need about 2 meters. That sounds a lot, but you've got a lot of knots to make and you want plenty to sort of grab hold of. So I'm going to do about 2 meters. That's about 2 meters I've got there. So I've folded it in half. So that's the halfway point. And the first thing I'm going to do is start with my fastening button. So, oh, no, I'm not. The very first thing I'm going to do is just put a little bit of this strong glue. I mean, any kind of glue would work. I just know this one will dry really quick for me. And I'm just putting a tiny little bit just to coat the very ends of this cord, just to keep it to a nice point for me to get through the buttonholes easily. I've just kind of put a tiny bit of glue on it and I'm just rolling it between my fingers just to make it pointy. I'm going to pop that end through the shank of this button. Now this is the point where you've got to decide how long of a distance you want between the fastening and the first buttons. I quite like necklaces a little bit long, but maybe some people like them a bit shorter, so I'll maybe do this one a little bit shorter this time. So that was 30 centimeters. I'm going to go 25 this time. So I'm going to measure 25 centimeters from, oh no I'm not, I'm going to make a little knot first. I'm explaining this ever so well, aren't I? So my button is threaded on and now I'm just going to make a little normal overhand knot, and I'm just going to pull that knot up so it's fairly snug against the shank of the button. Alright, and then from that knot I'm going to measure that 25 centimeters. I've got a little centimeter rule along the bottom of my cutting mat here. So there's my 20 centimeter point. I've got my thumb on it, and now I'm going to make another overhand knot there. And then before I pull the knot tight, I'm just going to get that up against the 25. I mean, it's not really crucial that it's 25 centimeters, but I do want the other side to be the same in a minute. So I've just measured that, and I'm just making sure the knot is at 25 centimeters, but it's just a normal knot like that. Now we're going to put the first button on. Now you can use 2-hole or 4-hole buttons, it doesn't matter. So this first one's a 2-hole button. The important thing is that for the first, so you've got these 2 pieces of cord, and we're going to thread both lengths of cord through each of the buttons that we're using. The important thing to remember is that the first length of cord goes from the top of the button through the hole and out at the bottom, or through the right side of the button, the front of the button, and out through the back. Then the other length of cord is going to go in through the back and come up through the front like that. Okay, so can you see what's going on there? So you've got one length of cord going in the back and out the front, and the other length of cord going in the front and out the back. Snuggling the button up fairly close to the knot, but not too close because you want it to move a little bit. And then I'm just going to tie another overhand knot. There we go, that's the first one on. So it should look like that. Won't focus, but you can see it well enough, I think. So now I'm going for the next button, and the next button I've got is a 4-hole button, so that's not a problem. What I'm going to do is use 2 of the holes which are diagonally opposite each other and ignore the other 2. Now sometimes it just seems to work out that one of the pieces, it doesn't always seem to work out, and I can't work out why it is, but it just seems to work out that the cord sometimes ends up so that you've got one piece is definitely on top. So if that's the case, I keep it on top, because otherwise it twists the button over. So for this piece, which was on top, I'm going down through the front of the button and out the back. And then with the other length of cord, I'm going into the back of the opposite, diagonally opposite hole, into the back and coming up through the front. This is so easy. It's quite hard to hold and do it in front of the camera, but it is really, really a piece of cake. There we go, so you can see what's going on there. And then tying a knot again to keep that button in place. Don't tighten up the knot too soon, just coax it up nearer to the button first before you pull it. And I'm not doing it super tight because I quite like the look of the knot. There we go, so that's 2 buttons on. And now my last button on this side before I get to the pendant. So again, you see there that one of the lengths of cord is definitely on top of the other. Sometimes they seem to come out side by side, but in this case that one is definitely on top, so I'm going to keep that on top. That will be the one that goes in the front, oops, and out the back, or in the top and out the bottom, whichever way you want to think of it. And then the other button goes in the back or in the bottom and comes up through the front. And I've gone again for the diagonally opposite button, hole, sorry, hole. Okay. Quite nice to find a use for the white cord because I've got loads of it. And it would look nice with some of my crochet cotton, I think, in different bright colours too. There we go, that's my 3. Yeah, I think with these pastel colour buttons that the white cord is very nice actually. And now I'm going to put both lengths through the top of the pendant. Don't need a jump ring with this one because loop at the top of the pendant is going that way anyway. So, but with where is it? So with this one, the loop is going that way, the hole is going there, so I shall need a jump ring. With this one I don't need a jump ring because the loop is that way around anyway. So I'm going to carry on and thread these last 3 on in exactly the same way. Got my last button on, just tying the last little overhand knot now. Okay, and they're all on. I did quite like that with the white string for a change, I think. Might need to have one of each now, eh? Myself. So the next thing is to measure that same 25 centimeters. So I want this distance to be the same as this distance now. So I'm going to measure 25 centimeters from that last knot that I've made. Tie my last overhand knot. No, it's not the last one actually. And now I'm going to tie another overhand knot, and I want to leave a gap in between them big enough for that button to go through to make the fastening. So it's got to be about there. So I'm just, before I tie the knot tight, I'm just checking. You don't want it to be too small to get the button through, but you don't want it to be so big that the button keeps coming undone either. When you're sure, you can pull both the knots tight. So I have ended up with this left over, so maybe I could have cut that a little bit shorter. I just like having plenty to keep hold of when I'm tying knots and things. There's nothing worse than it all being a little bit short and having to skimp at the end. So this is where I would now add my little beads. I could just do plain beads this time just to show you what that would look like. So now all I've got to do is thread a bead onto each of these ends, Make them slightly different lengths so they'll sit together nicely. So another overhand knot here, which has got to be big enough so that the bead won't slip off it. And you could probably just put a little bit of glue, dab a little bit of glue there just for extra security if you wanted to. Quite like the way this bead is sort of semi-faded. I've got some real what are they in amongst here? Sort of reclaimed beads like these ones. Keep them out actually, where the paint's chipped off a little bit and stuff. I think they'd look really nice with the clown ones. I'm going to keep them to one side. And I like these little shaped ones like this as well. These just came out of cheap wooden crafting packs, you know, like the kids in the works or Poundland or whatever. Yeah, so let's put my face cam on again and I can show you. I quite like it in the white for a change, especially for summertime. Right, so the next thing is this just thong necklace. So I'm going to use this thicker one. Oh, you don't want you don't want to be looking at my face now. Okay, so that seems to be pretty well stuck and ready to go. It is quite a hot day today, so that might be why it dried so fast. But normally I'd probably just go away and leave it at least for a couple of hours. So now I'm just trimming around. It's really easy to trim against the glass shape. Got to be a bit more careful with the epoxy ones because you can cut through them. So now it's not a perfect cut around. You'll probably be able to see. There we go. You can see some bits where it's not perfect. So that's where this little emery board comes in. And I'll just so this is exactly the same as you would do to make the magnet, and then you use the strong glue to stick a magnet on the back. So I won't bother showing you that one again separately. There's really no need. So with this one I'm going to use these heavier weight, actually they're not heavier. They're not heavier. I just think it's because it's glass fitting in there. It just gives it enough weight to be a pendant on its own, I think. Okay, I'm going to use the stronger glue for this because it's metal that we're sticking it to, metal and glass. Again, not too much of the glue because otherwise you get it. It's all it comes up around the edges. I'm just spreading it a little bit and then pressing it down, and it will carry on spreading itself underneath there as well. There you go. It's that easy. You do get a small amount of time to adjust the angle if you need to. I love that. I'm going to have one of these myself as well. At least one. It'd be hard to choose. And then because this is an antique brass colour, I'm going for an antique brass jump ring to match. I've got a couple of pairs of pliers because that's easier. And I'm just now going to open the jump ring, as you always do, by twisting it open this way. Oh, it won't focus now because it's focusing on the stuff in the background. Hopefully you can see what I've done there. There we go. So I've twisted it open that way rather than pulling it apart that way, because if you do that it can break the jump ring. So I'm just going to do that and then put it through my loop on top of my pendant, twist it back the other way to close it, and now that's ready to thread onto my cord. And because the jump ring is there, it will now turn and face the front instead of trying to go sideways. Okay, now I'm going to cut this cord about 1 metre long to give me plenty to play with, but that's probably going to be too much really. I'm going to do a sliding knot. Oh no, where is it? A sliding knot fastening like this. So I need to put the pendant on before I start tying the knot. So that is on. and now I'm crossing the two ends one over the other. So this one that's over the top is the one I'm going to be working with, and to make life easier I've got this little plastic tube. This is one, I think this one might have come off a paintbrush, you know, where they put them there to protect the paintbrush, but you could use a cut off piece of straw, just anything that will give you that tube. And I'm laying, so this one's on the top, I'm laying the tube against the two pieces like that, and now I'm going to take this this one that's lying over the top, and I'm going to start wrapping it around the tube back towards my hand. 3, let's go 4 times. 4. And then I'm coming out the back here and I'm putting this end through the straw in the middle. So what this is doing is putting it through those loops that I've made without the fiddle of trying to finagle it through. So I've got hold of that end, and now I can just carefully pull that straw away, out the way. I'm still keeping all of this gently but firmly in my left hand to keep it tight, and now I can just pull these pull this knot together, and you sort of have to do a bit of pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling to get it how you want it. So this bit will now slide through there, and this bit won't go anywhere. If I pull this now, it'll just tighten up the knot. I don't want it too tight because I want everything to slide through it, so I'm going to leave it like that and leave that end. Okay, so now I need to think about what length do I want this to be, so that from top to bottom of the, so from the bottom of the pendant to that knot is 30 centimeters. That seems to be about right to me. So now I've got to make the same knot again on this side. So I'm going to get my little straw again, hold it there, and I'm going to again come over this way, working towards my other hand. 1, oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to put the end through the straw, and then keeping hold of it in my right hand this time, I'm just going to gently pull that straw out the way. I'm not squeezing this, I'm just holding it gently but firmly, and now I can start to tighten everything up. So now I've got my 2 sliding knots. There we go. So now I can slide them completely together like that to open it right up to go over my head. But then I can adjust the length once it's on if I want it a little bit shorter. So now all I've got to do is tie my knots in the end, and again I could just personalise this if I wanted to, or just put a couple of colourful beads on there, but I'll just leave this one plain. This is a kind of cord that stays knotted pretty well. Once you've pulled it tight, it stays knotted, but with some of them they're a bit more slippery and you might want a bit of glue just to keep them, to make sure they stay knotted. But there we go. So let's put this one on. I might need to take my glasses off to get it on. No, all right. To me that's crying out for more beads, but I know some people like things a bit, you know, a bit plainer, so yeah, I'll leave that one like that. So that's it for me. I do quite like the different colour cord, and I'm quite looking forward to doing a creepy clown one now with some sort of brighter colour beads possibly. It'll be a nice thing to sit and do this evening. So, oh yeah, the other thing I just wanted to mention about, there's a really useful, I will leave a link to it. It's if you're in the UK, I'm sure there's an American version as well, but it's a UK, up-to-date UK Etsy fee calculator. And it's really worth having a look. It makes it ever so easy to work out. You need to bear in mind you've got to count whatever it's going to cost you to post and pack things up, what it's cost you in materials, and of course all of the fees. So for example, if I show you, I've jotted it down here so I won't forget. So for my button necklace, if I sell that for £6, which seems fair, including post and packing, by the time the fees have come off and the cost of posting it, I'm actually going to make £1.25, which isn't a lot for your time. I'm happy with that because it's using things up. I'll enjoy doing it, and you know, I'm happy to do it. At least I'm making a bit on it. For this one, if I sell this one for £6, I'll make £1.75 because the costs are slightly less. The fridge magnet, this is where it starts to get a bit difficult. So when you've got a small item like this, say I charged £3.50 for this, which I think would be quite expensive for, it's a nice quality one, it's got a nice big heavyweight magnet on it. Obviously I'd package it all nicely, put it in a nice little gift bag and things as well. I'm not even accounting the cost of that because I've got all that stuff already. But I still think £3.50 would be top end of what you'd be prepared to pay for one fridge magnet. However, if I sold it for £3.50, by the time I've taken all the fees off and the cost of posting, I'd actually only make 59p, which is just about okay, as I enjoy doing this kind of thing. What I'm going to try doing, I think, is instead of just selling these one at a time, I'm going to sell them in a set of 3. So because then the fees are spread over the cost of 3 and the cost of postage, the amount that I get as a proportion of what I'm charging is better. So I could sell 3 of these for £6, so they're only costing people £2 each, and I'd still make £1.75. In other words, I'd get about 60p each from making them, which is the same as if I sold one for £3.50. So for small items like that, I'm probably better off to sell them in little sets, and people get a better bargain that way, and I still get enough to make it just about worth my while. So I hope you find that helpful. It is something you have to bear in mind when you're doing these things. Yeah, we all do it because we love it, and we know we won't ever make a fortune doing it. But you don't end up out of pocket either. I will leave a link to that Etsy fees calculator because that is quite useful. What I hadn't realised, I looked at that stupidly, is that of course on top of the fees they also charge you 20% VAT in the UK on top of the fees. So it's quite shocking on small items. It's quite shocking how much you end up losing in fees. But you know, it is a nice easy platform to use, and they sort out the payments and everything. So you could do the payments through PayPal or something, but then you'd have to pay their fees. So yeah, I'm quite happy with doing it through Etsy, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, I hope that was useful and not too boring, that bit on the end. I just thought, if you're like me, you know, it is something you've got to bear in mind. And it's all a bit of a chore, all this stuff. Most of us who like doing creative things don't really like the business end of things, but unfortunately, necessary evil. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining me today. Hope you found that interesting or useful or fun to watch, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.